Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again, doing another discography countdown of one of my favorite bands. And today we are talking about the death metal legends Morbid Angel. One of the initiators, obviously Death was first, but these guys were early to the scene, the Florida death metal scene. And they're just legends. Some of these early albums, just fucking classics in the genre. Can't talk about death metal without mentioning Morbid Angel. We're just going to run through from my least favorite down to my favorite. I would like to say I love all their albums, but that's not quite the case. There's a couple in here that aren't my favorite. But let's just get right into it. They've got 9 studio albums. Let's start with the weakest one. Coming in at number 9 is Illud Divinum Insanus. This one by far is my least favorite. I just don't really like this album at all. I was really excited when I heard it was coming out. They reunited with David Vincent. I was like, fuck yeah, we're going to get some more quality death metal, some solid Morbid Angel. But no, that is not what this album is. It is actually pretty terrible. Too extreme. Just too terrible. Come on, like too much experimentation going on this album. Does not really sound like the classic Morbid Angel. It's not to say there's nothing good on here. The song Blades for Ball is pretty cool. That's got an old school vibe to it. But overall, this album as a whole is kind of shit. And I don't really ever go back to it unless I want to laugh at how terrible Too Extreme is. Coming in next at number 8 is their newest one, Kingdom's Disdain. This one saw Steve Tucker come back to do bass and vocals. And this is by no means a terrible album. It's still decent. It's just not that memorable to me. It doesn't have any like standout tracks. Like overall, it's okay. This is like a 7 out of 10 album, but it's just not on the same level as some of the classics. The song Garden of Disdain is pretty cool. And all in all, this is a very heavy death metal album. Definitely 10 times better than Illud Divinum Insanus. But I just can't put this one higher than number 8 because the other ones are just better. Coming in at number 7 is Heretic. This was what I thought was their last album ever before their long break, and then they came back with Illud Divinum Insanus. But Heretic, it was okay. This is another like 7 out of 10 album. A lot of different kind of things going on here, but there's still some pretty killer tracks. Curse the Flesh, God of Our Own Divinity, definitely both cool songs. I love Drum Check, just Pete Sandoval showing you what he can do on the drum kit. Like absolutely insane. Definitely one of the best death metal drummers of his era. But all in all, this album just can't go higher than 7 because the other ones are better. Coming in at number 6, another one that I'd probably give 7 out of 10 only to is Domination. This was the last David Vincent album before he came back later on. But yeah, this one has just got a different vibe to it than the first 3 David Vincent albums. Definitely more of like a slimy, swampy, heavy death metal feel. And it's not bad. The vocals definitely sound very overproduced and very, lots of different effects gone into it. But there's still some killer songs on here. I mean, Where the Slime Live is the standout track that everyone knows from this album. But Dawn of the Angry is probably my favorite on the album. Definitely a really killer song. All in all, I don't hate this album. I still just don't listen to it as much as my top 5. And let's get into that right now. Coming in at number 5 is Gateways to Annihilation. This was the second album with Steve Tucker, and this is a solid slab of death metal. Just very killer stuff. At One with Nothing, He Who Sleeps, just fucking great death metal cuts on here. Absolutely killer album. This one I would give a 7.5 out of 10. It's getting borderline into the better category, but I still don't quite go back to this album as much as the next ones. Coming in at number 4 is the first Steve Tucker album, and that is Formula's Fatal to the Flesh. Right out of the gate, this was his first album, and I think this is the best Steve Tucker Morbid Angel album by far. It's just got some really fucking killer songs on here, like Nothing Is Not, Prayer of Hatred, and of course the epic Invocation of the Continual One. That's probably the longest song on the album, and it's just awesome. This is just really killer death metal. After Domination came out, this was the next album after. You weren't sure what you were going to get now that David Vincent was gone, but this was just establishing them as still solid death metal veterans on the scene, and it's a fucking killer album and definitely deserves a listen. Don't discount it because there's no David Vincent. This is a killer fucking death metal album. But now into the top 3, and these are all David Vincent albums. These are the classic Morbid Angel albums. Anyone that hasn't heard Morbid Angel needs to go listen to these 3 albums immediately because they are all fucking classics. You could rank these any order of 1, 2, and 3, and I wouldn't be too upset with that. They're all just that good. But for me, number 3 is the 3rd album, Covenant. And yeah, this was a little more, I don't want to say commercial because it's death metal. It's not commercial, but it was a little more accessible than the first 2 albums for some people. Killer songs on here, like Rapture, oh, that riff, and fuck, they have a video for it, it's just awesome. Pain Divine, Blood on My Hands. Another video they have is God of Emptiness. That's a very much slower song. I don't want to call it the ballad because it is still very heavy and death metal, but just so fucking good. He kind of sings very like doomy at the end, like bow to me faithfully, bow to me endlessly, but then goes back to like his fucking death metal growls. David Vincent's vocals just are so legible on this album. You can hear everything, and it's just a fucking classic album for a reason. And that's why it's coming at number 3. Coming up next at number 2 is the debut, Altars of Madness. I know most people would probably want this number 1, but for me it's number 2. My number 1 I like a little bit better. But Altars of Madness, fucking killer debut, death metal staple, has to be in any death metal head's collection. Every song on here is just nuts. Chapel of Ghouls, Maze of Torment, Immortal Rites, Evil Spells, Suffocation. These are all on the same fucking album. Just a classic fucking piece of death metal. Absolutely amazing album. Fucking 10 out of 10. Deserves a high spot on my list. But for me, with Morbid Angel, my number 1 is the one I got a poster of up there, and that's Blessed Are the Sick. For me, it's just a step above the debut. It's a little more technical. The solos are a little more on point. They do a little bit more experimentation, but it really fucking works. And the songs are just catchy as all fuck and so goddamn good. Fall from Grace. Oh, the title track, Blessed Are the Sick. Day of Suffering, The Ancient Ones. And my 2 favorite tracks in here, and I have a hard time picking between these 2. Thy Kingdom Come and Unholy Blasphemies. Just so fucking good. Oh, Unholy Blasphemies, so fast and just a fucking death metal classic. Anyways, that's my list. Let me know down below what's your favorite Morbid Angel album. What's your least favorite? Do you like Illa Divinum Insanus? I sure don't, but maybe you do. Anyways, let me know your opinions down below. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Until next time, Hammerheart Metal Reviews out.